Greetings. Welcome to this very special gaming update from OSable on the new Steam Deck portable console. It is to be noted that whilst we do not usually comment on most gaming news, we think that this is worthy of such a mention. In this video we will be exploring what the new Steam Deck is and also about why it matters for gaming in general. So what is this Steam Deck thing anyway? It is a handheld gaming console developed by Valve, the company behind successes such as the Steam Games ecosystem, Portal, Counter-Strike Go, etc. It is scheduled to be released starting Q1 of 2022, with the other variants of higher storage scheduled further in the future. The hardware itself is pretty powerful and should allow for moderately high quality gameplay of some of the most challenging of modern games. However, we will clarify this after testing has been conducted when reviewers get the actual unit shipped. Most people watching this video right now probably don't care about the exact specifications of this device, but if you do, please press pause now and it will appear on screen. Next, the battery life. This is an extremely important area for portable devices that will be used on the go. In this area, it is heavily dependent on what you are doing, as stated by the Valve developer Pierre-Luc Griffes, who told IGN, "It's about 2 to 8 hours, depending on what you are doing. You can play Portal 2 for 4 hours on this thing. If you limit it to 30 frames per second, you're going to be playing for 5 to 6 hours. We can see this being a real issue if you want to play whilst travelling or if you aren't near any power sources for any moderately larger stretch of time. So why do we at OSable care and why are we so excited about the deck? We at OSable, as the name suggests, specialise in OS, operating systems, and user experience. The main property that makes us excited about the Steam Deck is the choice of operating system shipping by default on the device. This OS is a skinned version of Arch Linux with a KDE desktop called SteamOS. Don't worry about the technical jargon, all you need to know critically is that it runs Linux. Oh, and by the way, you can install Windows on it apparently if you desire, but by default it ships with Linux. Linux being the default is terrific news. Let us elaborate. Whilst there are lots of games that do work on Linux, some very popular ones do not due to an annoying issue. This issue being something called anti-cheat, which doesn't entirely work yet with Proton. This Proton package is used as a compatibility layer for playing Windows games on Linux, and is developed by Valve. This allows the deck to be powered by Linux because Windows compatible games on the Steam Library Store can be played in Linux. However, the anti-cheat services which don't currently work with Proton mean that some highly competitive shooting games, for example, like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, etc., cannot be played as of yet on Linux. This is not ideal, however Valve have told us that they are working with developers of said games to get them to run on the Steam Deck, Linux. This is huge as this update is likely to trickle down into the mainstream Linux desktop, meaning that finally there will be an easy gaming alternative to Windows for the masses. Microsoft should be afraid. I would be if I were them. Imagine the market share that could be snapped up by Linux on gaming PCs in the coming future, especially with the ever-looming end of life for Windows 10 being 2025. Whilst older machines can install Windows 11, in a hacky way for now, they may not be able to when the final version publicly releases for installation. These users will either have to buy a new computer or have to install another operating system. Linux may be the answer for them if they can play all their games in Steam. Finally, Secure Boot is required for use of Windows 11. This is a confusing requirement for many average desktop users of Windows, so this may further convince them to install Linux because dual booting? a process by which you have two OSs on your system at one time, is many more times more complicated with the Secure Boot option requirement of Windows 11. In conclusion, the Steam Deck will encourage developers to embrace Linux for gaming, meaning that Linux should become a viable gaming alternative to Windows. Lastly, the arguably arbitrary and confusing requirement for the next version of Windows may encourage many new users into Linux who use their computers primarily to game, as most other things can be performed in the browser and are platform agnostic. Thank you for watching. If you have any queries, questions or thoughts about the video, please leave them down below.